So one of the main questions I get asked a lot is how do I edit my photos? So I thought today I'll show you exactly how I do that. The other day one of my mates came by on his new bike. You guys might have seen him on a previous video. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it up here or something. But I said to him, shall we go out and shoot some photos of the bike? And so that is exactly what we did. So they are the photos that I'm going to be editing today.
Yeah, I like that. Oop. Start off with this lens. There we go. And get some nice wide shots of it.
Yeah, them exhausts got stick on it.
They do.
That'll be pretty cool.
Okay, so first things first, the software that I use is Adobe Lightroom, and once I've got all of my photos imported into there, this is what you'll see. Obviously you can see there is a lot of different photos here. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's 310, and obviously not all of them photos are going to be the ones I want to use. Out of this there might be maybe 15, 20 photos, maybe less. So what I first do is go over to develop and go through every single photo. As you can see on this one, it has stars on them, and that is basically rating the photos from 1 to 5, and it will give me a rating of stars 1 to 5 of what I basically like more. And after you've gone through all of the photos, picking the ones you like and want to edit, you can go over down to here. It says filters off, go on to rated, and there you have it, all of the photos that you want to go over and edit. That way it just makes the whole process a lot more easier. Now I know a lot of people like to scroll all the way to the end because that is when you've basically mostly warmed up, but I personally just go through the photos, pick basically one of my favorites, not necessarily being at the start or at the back, but pick one which you think will give basically a nice starting point to make basically a color grade for the whole entirety of the photos. So that said, I think I'm going to start with this one right here. Nice, simple, actually quite a nice photo, front end look of the bike. And the first thing that I will do is basically crop it to how I want, and that is just needed a slight adjustment, just like so. Nothing too major, maybe slightly a bit more, just like that. And now it's time for basically all the good stuff. I will then go through all of my presets. As you can see here, I've got a few different folders saved, but the ones I've been using a lot recently is this new folder that I've put out called Cinematic, and it's just got a couple in there. And this don't necessarily mean this is how the photo is going to turn out. If anything, it is a starting point for me. So I think I quite like the look of that Cine 2, so we're going to just basically have a starting point with that. Over there here on the right hand side, let me just close that detail tab. You can see here are basically all the lighting settings, so that is one of the first things that I go through. So obviously you can see here it is quite dark on the bike, so I'm going to up them shadows a little bit, just so it's not too dark. Obviously you can see here the highlights are quite harsh, so I'm going to bring down them highlights all the way apparently, and I think I might keep it there. Maybe I can slightly adjust. If I zoom in here, I can adjust the texture how I want it. I basically go back and forth to see what works, what don't work to my liking. So not adding too much, maybe I might leave it around 20. And for the clarity, I might boost that up slightly, might just leave it back to 0 to be honest, or maybe boost it up to 10. How does that look? Is that too much? 5. I think I'll leave it around about there for now. Obviously you can keep going back and forwards to these settings to change them, so this don't necessarily mean this is the end result. You can keep going back to it to change it as you edit. Can I just mention, by the way, like, have you seen this hat? It says subscribe and Summerderma Media. It's meant to be a Christmas present, but I've got it now, so cheers babe. But back to editing. Next up is the tone curve. So as you can see here, it's already set because of the preset that I chose and what I've already made. By the way, all the presets that you can see here is I've made them. They're not been purchased or anything. They are all original. And that's something that I like to stay to. Obviously purchasing different presets from other people can basically help you and give you a starting point to edit photos, but the best thing that I've done whilst learning how to edit is basically make my own presets and adjust them and tweak them and keep on doing that until you've basically got your preset that you like. But anyways, I don't think I really want to adjust this too much. I might actually bring this slider up tiny bit. Obviously down here is your darks and shadows, up here is your highlights, and this is basically something that you call an S-curve. And obviously you can see at the top you've got the reds, the greens and the blues, and you can basically adjust that to your liking, but to be honest I think I'm going to keep them how they are. Next up you've got the color mixer panel, and obviously you can see it goes from red, orange, yellow, greens, blues, and this is basically where you're going to obviously change the colors within the photo. Now for me, I would like to maybe bring in a bit more oranges, so I'm obviously going to stick with the oranges here. The saturation, I'm going to maybe bring that up, and this for me is a lot of trial and error. See what I like, see what I don't like, and I quite like them oranges being stood out like that. And obviously you can change the hue, so if you wanted a more of a lighter orange or a more of a reddier orange, you can adjust it like so. I think I'm only gonna adjust this slightly, and obviously then you have the luminance, which is basically the brightness of that color. And I'm actually going to keep it quite far down, maybe around here, 60. I might also adjust the greens within this photo. Let's see how much it affects the photo. Obviously using the saturation scroll going up and down, you can see what's actually being adjusted and what isn't. So I'm going to keep it basically as it was. Maybe highlights. Yeah, I could maybe bring up basically the highlights of the greens. I'm also going to bring the hue down a little bit, and I think I'll keep it like that. Obviously you can go through all of the different individual colors, but obviously with the preset that I've already made, they have already been selected, and I quite like how the picture is looking so far with the colors color wise. So I'm gonna click off that and go on to color grading. Now color grading isn't something I necessarily really adjust a lot of. It is something that I'm still learning because it's quite of a tricky way to color your photos. So obviously you can see here there's midtones, shadows and highlights, and with the preset that's been made, the midtones hasn't been adjusted. There's the shadows and highlights have, obviously the shadows being in the yellowy side and the highlights being in the bluey side, and I do quite like that, but I may bring them yellows more to an oranger side and maybe boost up slightly. Obviously you can see with the leaves on the bottom, it is obviously an autumn's day, autumn's evening, so I do want to keep that autumny vibe by bringing in them oranges. So just like so. Obviously you can keep going back and forwards. You can keep going back and forwards to your liking, to see what you like and see what you don't like, and I think I'll leave it around about there. Okay, so next up we obviously have the details tab, where obviously we can adjust the sharpness and the noise reduction. Now I don't like to boost the sharpness too much. If anything, if I want to sharpen the image, I prefer to use the texture tool and the clarity to help the sharpness of the photo. But as you can see on this little area here, which I do find quite good, you can adjust the sharpness, and with the zoomed in scale here you can see what you're actually affecting. So if you want to go over to like a point in the photo where you want to see how sharp it is, obviously the more you sharpen the image, the more noise and grain you get in the image. So I don't like to actually boost up too much. I might actually just leave it around 50. And for the actual noise reduction, I think I might leave it how it is. Maybe I might boost it up to 20 and leave it like so. For the lens corrections, I always click remove chromatic aberration. I can't even say that. Chromatic aberration? Is that how you say it? Chromatic aberration. Some of you might find this weird, but I never enable profile corrections. It's just something I never do. I don't know why, never have, never liked it. Simple. Now, it is very rare that I end up using the rest of these tools: transform, lens blur, effects, and calibration. More of the time I might use the effects tool with obviously adding a vignette or grain, but I'm not really wanting to add them to this photo. So now we've made all of them adjustments, I can now move on to my favorite tool, which is the mask tool. And I always like to start off with a linear gradient, especially in this type of situation. I will move it up towards like this at the bottom to then darken it, so I'll decrease the exposure, but I don't necessarily have to use that exposure tool. I can also use the shadows, I couldn't talk then, shadows, and also if I really wanted to use the whites and blacks, I might actually decrease the whites slightly. I think I might leave the blacks where they are. Now I don't exactly need to overpower this too much. If I do, then it won't look right. But that way, this is helping the viewer draw the eye to the bike instead of anything else in the image. Now something else that I do want to add is a radial gradient, and I'm going to put that up here. Obviously you can see with the highlights on the bike, the lighting is coming from this direction. So I'm going to add basically my own little, almost like a bit of like almost, I want to say like a flare, a highlighted flare. And I do that with obviously a radiant gradient and the exposure, pump that exposure up slightly. And also I really like to use the dehaze tool because it's a very soft light, and I just find that it works really well with what I'm trying to achieve. And there we have it. Obviously you can go back and forwards with all of the different adjustments as you go along, and I basically get to this stage and think to myself, what else can I do? Obviously if you click over here, there is the before and after, and I think I like it just the way it is. I might actually go back over into the masks tool, select subject, and if I really wanted to, I could. That's done a really good job there. Maybe boost that clarity up a smidge. Obviously the highlights are quite strong over here, so what I might actually also do, go on a brush tool on another mask, go over here with the brush tool where it's very highlighted, and decrease some highlights just that a little bit more. If anything, I might even also decrease the exposure slightly, not too much. Also, to help make this bike stand out, I am going to select background for another mask and just decrease the exposure of the background slightly, not too much. Maybe the shadows, also the shadows, yeah. Just helping the bike stand out just that little bit more. And there we have it. Obviously with the whole set is set in the same, all the photos were shot in the same place, so I want all of the photos to be edited the same. So the way I do that is go over to here to presets, create preset. I'm actually going to pull it in a new group. I'm just going to call this bike, why not, and just call it cool bike 1. Normally I don't normally add the masking, but if you do select the masking, it's obviously going to save the masking tools as well. Now this ain't always going to work with every single photo. You might have to adjust the masks within the photo depending on lighting and what's actually been shot, and so that's why I don't normally always click the mask, and I just add the masks on each photo that I do. But obviously to save time, I'm just going to click the masking tool there and press create. And obviously you can see here, we've got that preset right there. So if we go over to another photo, where shall we go to? Maybe one like this. It's quite a nice photo. And select cool bike. It's going to transfer all of them settings over to this photo. Obviously, as you can see, the lighting has changed, so we just adjust that in this section here. Going to decrease it like so. Maybe adjust the crop to how you want it, and boom, there we have a photo. So that is the basic way that I color grade and edit my photos. I put on the screen now all of the rest of the photos, but also if you want to go and check out my Instagram, they'll be all there too. If you did enjoy this video and if it did help you, then make sure you hit that like button. And if there is something that you might be struggling with photography or photo editing, then make sure you drop it down in the comments below and I'll be sure to get back to you, and if not, maybe make a video on it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching, and I guess I'll see you next time. Safe.